Good morning. Thank you for attending our webinar on handling remote depositions with ease. And thank you to the MDTC for allowing us to put on this platform and educate the legal market on this timely topic here with the coronavirus pandemic and the stay-at-home order. Okay, everyone, so we'll begin the presentation here. My name is Sean Fitzpatrick from Fort's Legal Support. This is my colleague to my right, Colin. We're trying to social distance here, 6 feet.
Close to 6 feet here.
And so we are a full-service litigation support company based here in Michigan. We have offices in downtown Grand Rapids and in West Bloomfield. And we really pride ourselves on supporting our clients on many different levels of their litigation practice, including nationwide court reporting and video services, computer forensics and e-discovery, and trial support services.
I just want to let everyone know as we begin and get into the topic of today's webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A section there and send in any questions, and we can touch on those either during the presentation or at the very end.
And so we're actually using the Zoom webinar platform. Most of you are probably familiar with, the Zoom meeting platform to conduct hearings, depositions, even meetings. And so there is that Q&A section below that Colin mentioned. So please feel free to ask any questions. So video conference depositions, they're not new. We've actually been conducting video conference depositions for years and years now, and particularly in our practice at Fort's Legal, we've been using the Zoom platform since we started our business back in 2015. So that's not necessarily new. What else is not new is that we're still delivering final transcripts in the same fashion that we always have, and we'll go into some of those file formats a little bit later. But the final deliverable after taking a remote deposition is not going to be any different than what you would receive if you were everyone in person here. So what is new is that all participants are at separate locations. And so that can create some logistic issues that we're going to talk about today and help troubleshoot and get everyone on the same page so we can conduct a smooth remote deposition. So when we are tasked with setting up a remote deposition, there's certain requirements for each participant here. Most of you were able to get on the Zoom platform here with the link that we sent with ease. And so that would be the same kind of workflow for any participant, any attorney, witness. We would simply create that link, send it out, they click on that link, and the Zoom meeting would launch. So there are some requirements as far as internet speed. You do need a computer with a webcam, and that can be a laptop, that can be a tablet. We've even seen people use their iPhones, right? And this terminology, we've heard it once, we're going to hear it for a long time: testing, testing, testing. And that's what we like to do with these remote depositions, because in the traditional setting, a lot of clients come to a court reporter's office, so they come to the attorney's office where, we have our infrastructure, our IT infrastructure, your law firm has the same thing, and so we're comfortable with the setup. We're comfortable with the speakerphone and the internet speed. And so when we're conducting these depositions in these remote locations where we're really relying on, Comcast internet or Xfinity or these Wi-Fi platforms in someone's kitchen or basement, we like to test with each participant and test again if we need to test their audio quality, the internet speed, just so we're comfortable when you start that deposition, those issues have been addressed already. And so we like to get the testing out of the way. So we like to have the names and participants' emails of the witness, any attorneys, and any other individuals that will be participating. We did talk about the transcripts. The deliverables are going to be consistent with what you're used to during a normal deposition. These are we actually send out 9 standard deliverables. I think most people in this marketplace use the standard PDFs. We do link all the exhibits, and we can't forget about the PTX.
Mm-hmm.
People love that.
Yeah, the real legal file. Yep.
Next slide.
So as far as what's new, Sean, mentioned that all participants are now at separate locations. In this diagram here, we have in orange one potential deposition makeup where you have a witness, a court reporter, and then a defending and a questioning attorney. And then if you bring all 7 of these participants together, the green and the orange, that could give us a second example where you might have some additional attorneys involved, and then you could even have a videographer and perhaps an interpreter. And so the dotted lines represent the internet connection, and this is the new variable that is brought into this what's new question here of having all participants at separate locations is the internet. And this is why it's so imperative for us to be able to test with each participant and also to be able to identify who and how many participants there are prior to the job.
And in theory, we could have, there's 7 different individuals there, but in theory, we could have 10, 15, 20
Absolutely.
different participants. So, and that's okay. We'll conduct tests with 20 different individuals if we need to. So another item that is different that we get asked a lot about is the sharing of the exhibits. Traditionally, whether we're doing video conference depositions in the past, there's always been some combination, right? It's either been the attorney with the witness, the court reporter with the witness, everyone in the same room together with an expert appearing remotely. So there's been some combination of people together in one location. And typically, the court reporter has been the keeper of the exhibits. Will typically print those exhibits out. The court reporter will have them for the deposition, hand them to the witness as they're being introduced. And so this is a different dynamic. And so how are we handling this? Well, there's 4 different options that we've kind of laid out here for you. Option 1 is where you as the attorney send all participants prior to the deposition the exhibits. And we've seen that in several different fashions where the attorneys will send us as the court reporting firm or the court reporter the exhibits, and then we distribute that to the witness and the opposing counsel. Sometimes they're sending all the exhibits together in an email string with us, the court reporting firm, the witness, the attorney, everyone's on one string, and that works. Option 2, the attorneys use the Zoom screen share feature. So we're using the screen share feature here and during this webinar, and it's the same fashion that you would do that with sharing your screen for these exhibits. And typically what our clients like to do is set up a folder on their desktop with PDFs of all the different exhibits they intend to use. And when they're introducing these exhibits, they'll simply share their screen and show that particular exhibit. Now, option 3 is actually our recommendation. And this was created by Colin actually as a great workflow here for our attorneys, because one of the things that we've come across is that our clients don't necessarily want to share all those exhibits before the deposition for many different reasons. And so we've actually come up with a workflow that allows you to introduce them one at a time while still providing the entire exhibit to all participants. And so that is creating custom URL links, and we'll kind of walk through. If we go to the next slide, Colin, here, we'll kind of walk you through this, and then we'll actually show you an example.
Absolutely. So here's our recommended workflow, and it's really a combination in part of option 2 and 3. The screen share feature, which is being utilized to share this PowerPoint right now, and then also the custom URL feature. So number 1, attorney is to send Forts Legal a copy of the exhibits electronically. That can either be an email with all the documents as attachments. It can be separate emails with one document each, or it could be a download link to all of the documents. We will then take those documents and create custom URLs for each exhibit. What we do with those URLs is we then create an exhibit index with a description of each potential exhibit and then the corresponding custom URL for that document. What that allows us to do is when an exhibit is introduced, the attorney can simply copy and paste the corresponding URL link into the Zoom chat feature, and all participants can simply then click and access the entire document. The attorney can also use the share screen display feature to be able to actually display the exhibit and move forward with the witness questioning. What the custom URL will do is allow the other participants, like opposing counsel or even the court reporter, to be able to actually click that custom URL and scroll through to different pages of the exhibit that might not be displayed on the screen via share screen. Our court reporter then goes ahead and marks the exhibits in the same normal fashion that they typically do. So the final exhibits that are hyperlinked to our deliverables, our transcripts, will have those same typically yellow exhibit stickers in the bottom corner. Now what I'm going to switch to here is an example of this exhibit index. We created a small example with 3 exhibits, and these are some internal marketing flyers. And we have 3 different columns. The first column is the description column. What we put in here is the file name of each document. So if the client sends us documents that are labeled with a specific native file name, we would simply put that in the description. What some clients have moved forward to do is actually, save their file names as Exhibit 1 to Exhibit 10 to just try and add a little bit of additional transparency as they are identified, across this kind of video conference means. However, it is not necessary to do that, and we can certainly keep the file names as they are. And then we have these custom URLs in column 2, which allows us to copy and paste into the Zoom chat feature. The third column is for our court reporter to be able to notate which exhibit is marked during the deposition, because as we all know, not all of them may be marked, and they certainly probably won't be marked in order here.
So that allows our clients to introduce those exhibits one at a time, as opposed to sending all 5, 10, 20 exhibits. And so having that index is great. It doesn't require Adobe, doesn't require a Dropbox. It's simply, you can simply copy and paste that into your web browser, and every page of that exhibit will pop up.
And one more thing I'll note as well is that, when you send the URL in chat, you can notate Exhibit 1 hyphen paste the URL. That way, if you're pasting 40 different URLs for 40 different exhibits, it's easy for the other participants to differentiate which one is which.
And we've seen our clients take that document, just have it readily available, and just simply copy and paste as their workflow as they go through these exhibits in their deposition, and it allows our clients to use only the exhibits that they are using during the deposition, right?
And one last thing I'll note as well is that I see we have a question here. Let's see. Does the cloud service Dropbox used for your custom URLs guarantee confidentiality and security status to comply with protective orders, HIPAA, etc.? Great question, and thank you for that. It certainly does. We have the business account, and it has full security, and we've worked with our IT team to ensure that it is fully secure, confidential, and cannot be accessed. And another great question, the participants do not need a Dropbox account at all. It is simply a link, and so our company needs the Dropbox account. The individual who creates the share link needs to have the Dropbox account, but no other participant needs to log in, type their email or anything. Once they click that link, the document pops up and it gives them an option to download.
Can we show that, Colin?
Certainly.
Certainly. We can kind of copy that link and paste it.
And the last thing I want to also kind of add in with this discussion is that, these URLs don't always have to be used for each exhibit. Typically what we see is that the screen share feature is used, and then the URL is there ready to go if it's requested or if it's needed, or perhaps if it's a longer, more voluminous document where it just makes sense for people to have access to it instead of relying on the share screen.
So we're seeing a combination, right? If it's a smaller exhibit, maybe 1 or 2 pages, we're just popping it up on the exhibit share feature.
Exactly.
If it's, a 20-page, contract, then we're using more this URL. So
exactly. And so here, I just clicked that URL link, and it's one of our marketing flyers. But again, it says who it's from. It's from Forts Legal. It gives me an option to sign in. However, it doesn't require me to be signed in, and it also gives you an option to download there.
So anyone with a internet connectivity
certainly
will be able to, use these URLs.
Certainly.
And just go to their web browser where they would type in yahoo.com or cnn.com and, paste that URL link.
And however, one thing I want to, make sure, I think it's important to note is that we don't want the witness to have to be clicking anything.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point is that the witness can sit back with their hands in their lap, look at the screen in front of them, have the exhibits presented, and then answer their questions. And so the URL, again, it can be perhaps, necessary for the witness to use if it's a very lengthy document just for, their review purposes and efficiency. But it's more, comes in handy with opposing counsel and things like that. And oftentimes, you might have a opposing counsel that may not want the exhibit displayed prior to them having the chance to review. And so this URL link can come in handy for that as well, because Zoom chat has a private chat feature. And so instead of sharing the URL with all participants, you can actually select one specific attorney or a couple, specific participants to share the URL with.
So if we go to slide 6, Colin, again, I just want to touch on the fourth option here. The fourth option is really utilizing one of our technicians to display the exhibits, for you during the deposition setting. And, one of our services that we do provide is in-court trial presentation of exhibits. And so it's an easy transition for our team to be the keeper of the exhibits during a deposition setting. So, to the extent that you want that feature, we can have someone from our team in the background displaying the exhibits using the screen share feature when called upon. So in that example, maybe it's Colin or someone from our team, I'm referencing exhibit 14. There's Colin in the background popping that up on the screen share feature, and maybe you're telling Colin to go to page 4 on that document. So this is a very similar fashion to some of the work you do in trial.
Absolutely.
Where the attorney will say pop up exhibit number 4, you'll go to it, you'll highlight maybe a section. So
I will note, in a trial, I'll create a large trial database with exhibits and use a special software. In this scenario, in depositions, unless there's going to be hundreds of exhibits, we typically just rely on PDF Adobe. However, instead of actually having to double click and load the document when asked by the attorney, we actually go ahead and load all documents up in our computer prior, so that when the exhibit is requested to be displayed, we can immediately display that exhibit instead of having to wait for it to load. And of course, when the exhibit is not being discussed anymore, we stop the screen share so that the witness is the main picture.
So our value proposition to the marketplace here is we're offering a lot of complementary services, including the use of the video conferencing platform, testing with each participant. And as we saw from that example earlier, sometimes it's, 4 or 5 people, sometimes it's 20 people that we're testing with. We're also creating these custom exhibit index and the URL creation. So that's something we do complimentary for each deposition as well. And then we provide that full tech support. Again, testing here. So, we want to, I know there's a big concern about, all the added costs associated with taking a remote deposition. So we wanted to put some of that at ease by offering a lot of these complimentary services for our clientele. So the last thing we'll kind of touch upon here is the video recording. So there is a recording feature within Zoom that we have used, but we've kind of gone to a different methodology where if you're actually noticing this up as a video deposition, we will have a videographer on the Zoom remote meeting deposition. And this videographer will conduct business as usual. They'll go on and off the record. They will apply timestamps. They'll use a screen capture software. I know, that's a big concern. And so they actually use a different platform than Zoom to actually video record the deposition, and they're really spotlighting the witness. So whether you're, all these participants, really, we're going to be spotlighting on the witness when you actually have a videographer that's been engaged. And then we can also take that video file and synchronize it with our transcript in the normal fashion. So there is a way, and we've been doing more and more kind of more traditional, video recording in a sense, where we bring on a videographer. And when our clients choose to have the videographer present, it's usually that individual as well that will do the presentation of the exhibits. So they are really going to wear 2 hats in that situation, where they'll be, recording the Zoom deposition as well as presenting the exhibits.
And again, that final video deliverable then is exactly what we're traditionally used to, with playing a witness video in court. There's no other participants, there's no exhibit screen share, no Zoom icons, anything like that. Timestamps as usual. The last thing I think that's important with the video recording, I want to touch on it before we go to the next topic, is, people ask sometimes if Zoom depositions take longer than a traditional deposition. It depends on the witness. It depends on the type of case. However, the videographer can answer that question of what is our total runtime. Make sure you're staying in whatever rule or requirement or that you have set. If it's 5 hours, 7 hours, that videographer is keeping track of on and off the record, can answer on the spot what is my total runtime. So
we've been asked about conducting Zoom hearings, Zoom meeting, or Zoom trials. And so, we've been engaged by our client to help with a Zoom trial. And so we're creating a database of exhibits. We use a competing product to Trial Director. OnCue is what Colin uses. But in the same fashion, we're collecting all the exhibits, we're creating a database, and then presenting those remotely. And so, it's a different dynamic, but, it's working, and, we're getting through it, and, hopefully we'll all be in court at some point.
And I guess in short, what we wanted to leave everyone with is, even if you didn't understand all the different nuances of the exhibit sharing options, the end point is that, it can be done, and we can help you do it. And so there's no need to have any fear about taking video conference depositions, because we're here to help, get through them successfully.
Yeah, and we test, at nights, on weekends, after hours. So we know, people have their day-to-day lives they need to live. And so if it's doing a Zoom meeting with an expert at 9 p.m., we'll be available to do that. So we do have, a Q&A section as well. So if anyone will hang out for a few minutes, a couple things to note, we do have some contact information. We will be sending around the presentation. We did record it. And then we're actually going to be back here next week on Friday.
Same time.
Same time, same place.
We've got a special guest, though, with us.
Yeah, we have Ian Williamson from Mantees-Heinemann, very, very talented attorney. And we're going to be really talking about some of those new Michigan discovery rules that took into place on January 1st, and something other than something different than COVID-related material here. And we have some great tools to help you adhere to these new discovery rules that we'll be touching on. So please join myself and Ian and Colin next week, and for this presentation. So we'll stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions. Do we have a couple questions? Looks like.
Yeah, we had a couple throughout that we already touched on, but we have a great one here. It's asking about, how do we know if the client has the capabilities for Zoom?
Mm-hmm.
And like what about like a solo practitioner or a witness that just might not have the technology, or maybe be more in a rural area perhaps?
So a couple of things that come to mind. One, some participants have been appearing just via audio, right, where they're not participating on the video portion. And with our Zoom platform, we always send out the invitation that actually has a dial-in number for phone audio. Another methodology we've been using, Colin, we have, these iPads, right? Mm-hmm. And so, to the extent that, a witness is in dire need and it's an important witness and they just don't have the means or the technology, we could always ship them. We actually purchased several iPads for this purpose, to be able to use for our court reporters, witnesses, whoever may not have the means. And so that's a way we're trying to circumvent it. And, quite frankly, we've seen, witnesses go to their neighbors or go to their brother and see if they can borrow these devices. So, we get creative. If we need to send out, we can, but we get really creative with this. So.
Mm-hmm. Another great question is about, with the URL link, can the witness or another participant download that document and start to, scroll through and view that document even while, the share screen feature is enabled? So can they be looking at the share screen and then also scrolling through a document at the same time? So I'll go ahead and answer that one. The answer is yes. The witness or a different participant can do that. There's a couple different things to note with that, though. When you're dealing with one screen, if you're on a laptop and you have one screen on that laptop, you can only use that one screen. And so if you want to view, the share screen through the Zoom software, and then also view the document or that you downloaded from the URL, you would have to, exit the full screen portal of both of those screens and almost kind of use half of the laptop screen for each portal. However, if you have dual screens connected, that can make life much easier. But you can certainly do it, and what would be also very easy would be to switch back and forth from one, and the witness could click the document, review that, scroll to page 20, and then click back to Zoom and see the display again. And we've got one other question here about the breakout room function, and that's a great great point as well. The breakout room actually enables us to create separate meeting rooms within one meeting. And so what we really use it a lot for is mediations, but also just for a typical deposition, it can come in handy when there's a break and somebody needs to just go have that chat. And what we can do as the host, and a big reason why we kind of provide the full tech support throughout, is so that we can actually create a breakout room on the spot and put 2 or 3 different participants in that room. And when they're in a room, the other participants that are in the actual meeting can't see them, can't hear them, and don't even know where they are. And so it's a great feature, and then we can bring them back all together and shift them all around. It's really a cool tool.
And I think the last takeaway, Colin, and we touched on this, is that, we're going to be here every step of the way with you. So even if you don't engage us to actually, present the exhibits, we're still popping on every single deposition, and we have it, and we're monitoring it. And our court reporters know that if, any potential issues arise, they can call on us, and we'll try to troubleshoot the best we can. So, while this is, different and can be a little daunting, it's been good. It's been good. We've been getting through them. Someday down the road, we'll get to more traditional depositions. But in the meantime, this can really, keep your cases on track, so you're not, kind of log jammed when we can break out and actually do in-person depositions. So, is there any other Q&As there, Colin, that we missed, or we've answered?
Looks like, yeah, we've got one more. Are the URLs, password, and username protected to the participants of the deposition only? It's a great question, and we have them where they are publicly accessible to anyone who has the URL. The whole point of it is that the URL is kept so that they're only, distributed to the participants. There is an option to make them password protected and username protected. However, I guess depending on the specific need of the job, we would be able to enable that, but it could potentially cause some issues, and hiccups during the job for everyone to be able to get on that kind of wagon. But I think it's something we could certainly enable if it was requested, and it could add that extra layer of security.
So we do, we've done a lot of these demos with individual firms, individual attorneys. So to the extent that you found this information helpful, we did record it. We can do a firm presentation. We can do a presentation for, a small group. So, we want to try to be a resource for you the best we can. We actually do have the quick reference guide as well. And that, it's really a one-page document that shows the requirements that can be shared amongst, the witnesses, opposing counsel. So everyone has the information here. So I know we're right up against it. So again, thank you for your participation in this webinar.
Yeah, feel free to email us any questions that pop in, your mind. We'll get to them promptly. And we also have a nice flyer that we'll send along with the recording of the video here. So thank you, everyone. Stay safe and have a great weekend. And then hopefully we can see you next Friday for our next webinar. And we'll send out a registration link for that shortly.
See you, everyone.